Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Hi mamas, welcome back to Simple and Healthy Mama. I have not posted in a very long time. I am so glad you are with me today. At first when I wasn't posting, it was because I couldn't figure out how to find time to edit my videos. Life just got too overwhelming with COVID-19 and the lockdowns and all of that. But then it was very much on purpose after George Floyd's murder. So now here we are in Minneapolis, 2 months after George Floyd was killed, and I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on in my mind since then. I also wanted to take some time to not have my voice be heard. I really took some time to listen, specifically listen to Black voices in our community and across the country, because that seemed like the most appropriate way to move forward. I knew that I needed to educate myself a lot more about systemic racism and my own personal bias. I've been doing that through listening to a lot of interviews on YouTube, actually. I found a lot of great things, and I've listened to some fabulous audiobooks. Of course, you've probably heard by now about white fragility and how to be an anti-racist, and loads of other resources. So I took time to listen to voices and to figure out what the best path forward towards educating myself and helping my community heal and change. Recently, I've learned the term performance activism. I didn't know that was a thing, but once I heard it explained, I could see that it's definitely something that happens a lot. But then I became sort of paralyzed because I didn't want to be doing performance activism. I'm trying to take actionable steps. I'm trying to do actual things that will make changes, not just put my Black Lives Matter sign out front and call it good. The best analogy that I've heard on our journey toward a more just, equitable, and less racist society is that everybody is in their own lane on this giant freeway, and we're all going the same direction, all of us that are in this fight together, but there are many different lanes you can be in. So there are different ways to skin a cat, different ways of getting there. So if you have young children and you were in a place where there were a lot of protests, you might, like us, not have felt comfortable getting right into the middle of the protests. You can show your support in other ways. We did go to the George Floyd memorial site and we stood on the periphery, which was on purpose, partly because we didn't want to potentially spread any COVID-19 infection. We also didn't want to expose the Black community to any more of that than necessary when it seemed like it was necessary for them to be there and for many of them to go there and have their experience of being able to grieve and come together as a community. So we stayed on the outside of the circle, but even just being there as a white body and showing our support felt really meaningful. So there are different ways that you can show your support and make a difference. And I've had some really good conversations with people about how doing it your own way it's good to push yourself, but it's also okay to do what you are capable of doing rather than just feeling guilty for what you can't do. So for us, we haven't marched in any protests, but we have protested by using things like our money and our voices. We've sent emails, and I've had a lot of really meaningful conversations with people in my circle who have some trust with me, and I think that that is a really important thing that I can do is when I come up against someone who is having trouble understanding systemic racism and just how deep it is in our society, if they know me and trust me a little bit, I can help sort of nudge them towards thinking about things in different ways. But what I've also learned during this time is that white voices are important as well as Black voices, voices of people of color, because the white voice has a different power, and sometimes for white people to learn what they need to learn as far as racism goes, it can be more easily absorbed coming from another white person. I think it can feel a little threatening, and people can get very defensive if they are white and they are talking to a person of color. And I'm not saying those conversations aren't also good, but that goes along with the other concept, which is that it's not Black people and people of color's job to educate us. So it's okay to receive this education from other white people. That was something that I found interesting, because I thought, well, shouldn't we be listening just to the Black voices? And the answer is no. There are white people who are woke, although you can't really be woke or not woke. It's a journey, not a destination. But you can learn a lot from other white people, and it takes some of that emotional burden off of people who are already going through a lot emotionally right now, that being people of color. Maya Angelou once said, what was it? Let me look it up. I want to get this right. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. I just love that. And I think that's where a lot of us can let go of some of the guilt that we might be feeling from not knowing any better. I actually had somebody on like a neighborhood Facebook group accusing me of having white guilt. And this one was just being horrible. She was just on a rampage. And I was like, well, yeah, I have white guilt. Don't you have white guilt? You're white too. And like, clearly we haven't done enough to help people who aren't white. So yeah, there's white guilt. And it was like this horrible insult she was throwing at me. And I thought that was very strange. What I'm saying is the white guilt, while it might be there and you can acknowledge it or not acknowledge it, it doesn't actually serve anybody. But doing things, talking to people, protesting in your own way does make a difference. So keep up the good work. I know people have been doing so many different things. And remember to also take care of yourself and take care of your family, because this is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. You've got this, mamas.